As you've likely noticed, the PS5 and Xbox Series X reviews are out, and while comment sections everywhere are already telling you there's an obvious winner, I'm here to make things clear. So, if you're still not sure on what console you want to buy, or are checking to make sure you've pre-ordered the right choice, you've come to the right place. Today, I'll be telling you straight the differences between the consoles, and most importantly answering the question of what console is right for you. Because guess what? Spoilers, there isn't a console that is just the winner. They both have their own selling points. If you're interested to find out, remember to like and subscribe to help a small YouTuber out today. Right, no further delays I promise, onto the video. Right off the bat, if you're looking to pick a console based on which hardware is going to offer you the best next-gen experience, there really ain't that much of a difference between the two. Sorry, we're not in the days of the Wii versus the PS3, and thank God for that, eh? In reality, the resolution and the frames per second are very similar across the board, quite like the PS4 and Xbox One in that regard. If you can see the differences between these images, then frankly, I commend you. It does seem as though the Series X has a small advantage in load times, but in reality we're talking about last-gen games taking 50 seconds rather than a minute, and both of these consoles support quick resumes within seconds. So if anybody shouts at you for PlayStation's slow load times, just remember they spent more time writing that comment than you will ever spend waiting for a game to load. A bigger difference is in the memory size, with the PS5 not only having a slightly smaller usable space at 667GB versus Xbox's 802GB, but seemingly no way to expand it, as not only is Sony's SSD so unique it doesn't support any existing SSDs, but also loading games from external memory isn't possible either. So if you think you're going to grab Demon's Souls, the new COD and Spider-Man Ultimate Edition on launch, you may have to think again, as those three games alone will eat up half your memory. Worth mentioning the Xbox do offer memory expansions day one, but it's gonna cost you half of what you paid for the console? Whoa. Between not having a choice and paying an arm and a leg, all I can do is hope that the next Call of Duty stops expanding like a bloody balloon. So, if you've been paying attention, you'll have noticed I've given minor credit to Xbox twice in the hardware department. But don't worry, because PS5 has a major hardware system seller in its controller. I think this was unexpected for most people. For years now, Microsoft has made the de facto controller for both console and PC, and often the next best controllers just try to copy what works well in the gamepad. However, the reviews coming in for DualShock 5 and its haptic feedback are overwhelmingly positive, and it sounds like this isn't just some HD rumble. Although, while it certainly sounds impressive, one caveat is that these reviews are coming from having played Astro's Playroom, which is essentially a game designed to test the controller. And there's a big question whether haptic feedback will be properly supported by games going forward, especially third-party games. If you're developing a game for PC, Xbox, Switch, and finally PS5, are you going to spend extra resources to develop features only one audience can use? I've seen enough Nintendo gimmicks fail to have my doubts. And those are really the most crucial differences when it comes to pure hardware, other than which design do you prefer? Box versus tower, black versus white, fridge versus Wi-Fi router. Now we know hardware is mostly down to personal preference, let's talk about the thing you actually use your games console for, the games. Honestly, the comparison of games this generation is unlike years prior. Before, you would most likely just compare exclusives. You'd like Uncharted or Gears, Halo or Metal Gear, and then you'd choose from there. But that simply isn't the case here. When it comes to exclusives, PlayStation has them and Xbox doesn't. Yeah, it might have some system sellers eventually, but right now Spider-Man is looking a whole lot more fun to play than the waiting game. At the end of the day, if all you want to do is play Demon's Souls or the new God of War next year, there's only one console that offers it. But what Xbox lacks in home-run console sellers, it more than makes up for in variety and value for money for its stellar Game Pass. You've got to remember a lot of next-gen games will now be $70 on launch. In comparison, at $15 a month, you're getting nearly 5 months of access to hundreds of games, as well as EA Play and an Xbox Live membership. I mean, obviously you don't own the games, so that's a downside, but nowadays with everything going digital and companies being able to force updates or shut down servers, ownership of one's game is questionable at best regardless if you own the box or not. I suppose it's almost like comparing going to the cinema versus Netflix. Sure, cinemas will have exclusive films, and if you want to watch something big and brand new right now, it's great, but it can be pricey each time. While Netflix has access to hundreds of options, and while a lot may not be to your fancy, you have so much choice you'll eventually find something to entertain you. And if you're not impressed with Game Pass's lineup right now, it has some serious potential down the road, with Xbox owning the studios behind Doom, Halo, Forza, Fallout, Dishonored, Gears, The Elder Scrolls, and loads more. And while some of these games will also likely be available on PS5, you'll be shelling out $70 for them each, on top of having to still pay for PlayStation Plus, which, to give it credit, seems to be finally ramping up its value with the PS5's release, offering a bunch of great PS4 titles day one, as well as next-gen exclusives like Destruction All-Stars and Bugsnax? Well, hot dang, I take it back, that's what you call a deal. Finally, before I get to my verdict, I want to go over a few things that actually make these consoles unique from each other. None of these things will likely affect the average Joe's purchase in any significant way, but they are useful if you're in the market for something quite specific. Firstly, PlayStation is still apparently supporting PlayStation VR, so if that's something you care about, let it be known that Microsoft has no plans for it. On the other hand, if you care more about portability and playing games on your phone, Xbox Game Pass offers an impressive cloud gaming service. As previously mentioned, Sony's DualShock 5 has unique features such as haptic feedback and adaptive triggers, which may intrigue you, but equally, Xbox has backwards compatibility accessories, meaning if you have fondness for Xbox Elite or use an adaptive controller, the Series X will still support it, while the PS5 has nothing similar to work with. As for audio, pick your flavour. Both claim to offer immersive audio technology, with Xbox using advanced algorithms to create spatial audio, whatever that means, while Sony has gone down the headphone route using Tempest 3D audio tech. Basically sounds like, do you prefer using speakers or a headset while playing? So, what we've learned so far is that from a hardware standpoint, these two systems are extremely similar, and from a software standpoint, it's between a few really good exclusives and an ever-growing and diverse catalogue of games for a cheap price. So with that in mind, I think I can quite happily tell you which console is best for you based on your current circumstances. If you own a PS4 Pro, an Xbox One X, or a decent gaming PC, well, this is going to be a little controversial, but don't buy it yet. There's just no need. This generation, more than ever, there is little downside to waiting. Outside of Sony exclusives, most upcoming games are going to be cross-gen, and better than that, if you buy Cyberpunk 2077 now, and then in 6 months' time change your mind and do decide to upgrade, your copy will also work on next-gen consoles. No more being punished and having to buy the same game twice. And I'm not saying don't think about going next-gen eventually, just more that there's really no rush, and you'll probably be able to pick up like 3 launch titles for the price of one in less than a year's time. If you own a standard PS4/Xbox One, this is when I'd seriously start considering it. If you own these consoles, you've probably already started to notice it's struggling in some more demanding games, and that's just going to get worse as more games are developed with next-gen first in mind. Something definitely worth considering though is that it might be worth swapping allegiances. Because backwards compatibility is so good this generation, as an Xbox fan you'll get easy access to all the next-gen exclusives as well as those you missed on PS4. And obviously this goes both ways. Another good thing is that way more games are cross-gen nowadays, and it's much easier to communicate with friends using third-party tools like Discord. So gone are the days where you'd have to buy a console just because otherwise you can't play with friends. If you're starting new, this might be because you skipped the last generation or only play on Nintendo consoles, and for you guys I have 3 options based on your budget. If you've got a low budget, the best value for money is an Xbox Series S with Games Pass. You definitely don't get the full next-gen experience, but you'll still be playing games at much higher fidelity for only $25 a month. With a more sizable budget, I'd recommend a PS5. If you have the money and don't mind shelling out $70 for a new game, then the PS5 simply offers a bigger catalogue, and while you may miss out on a few exclusives, you'll be getting access to 99% of the top games. However, in my mind, if you can afford it, the best option is, yes, buy a PS5, but also get into the Game Pass ecosystem via either a Series X or a gaming PC. With a PS5 you'll be able to play exclusives, and with Game Pass you'll be able to play pretty much everything else. Personally, as someone who skipped the previous generation and has Game Pass for PC, there's honestly no reason for me to get an Xbox Series X. And that doesn't make it a bad console, but everything it offers is already on my computer. While PS5 has exclusive games I can't play elsewhere. Don't get me wrong, I hate the fact that the main selling point of the PS5 is that it has games I want to play under hostage. But it works. I'm sure in a perfect future we'll all be able to play God of War, Halo and Zelda without having to swap the systems 3 times, but so far that's just a fantasy. But really, at the end of the day, just pick which console you want, be it because of the games, the controller, or just the one you prefer the look of. Who cares, you're going to be the one playing it, and with cross-gen and less exclusives than ever, you'll be getting a great experience whatever console you choose. Both are getting great reviews and look like they genuinely enhance modern titles through faster load times, higher frames per second, better graphics and more. So what do you think? Are you going to get a PS5 or an Xbox Series X? Or neither? Or both? Or say screw it and build a gaming PC instead? There's really no wrong answer. Except for the fact there's currently no right answer either. If you haven't pre-ordered by now, you're probably not getting a new console in 2020. But think of it as yourself being patient and sensible for waiting for the right time to upgrade, rather than literally not being able to give your money away. Well, whatever your decision, I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, do me a massive favour and consider liking and subscribing. For a small channel like myself with less than 1,000 subscribers, even a few subs per video can make the world of difference. Thank you.